Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. And if you're new here, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. My name's Ben, and welcome to my podcast. And I hope that you leave today with just some encouragement, maybe some laughs along the way. But I'm really glad you decided to join me. And I just hope this is a really relaxing episode. So, first off, I want to just once again thank you all for your support over my time since I've been in Hungary, but then also just during this podcast and the support I've gotten. But yeah, and so last week, if you tuned in last week or you didn't listen last week's episodes were kind of about the journey that I have really been on. You know, where the Bowden experience whole idea started, where myself making videos started, where this podcast started, and that's what the last two episodes have been about. And so, if you want to know more insight about that, go ahead and I'll kind of, I guess, link them below. But go ahead and go check those out, because I think that gives a little insight of what of who I am, but then also like where God has taken me. And so, I hope that you got encouragement from that, and it kind of in a weird way. Not in a weird way, I guess in a good way, but it leads into this, maybe not both episodes this week, but at least this episode. And that's the idea of family. When I started doing videos, I think my family might have been a little bit like, he's doing something fun, or he's doing something that, he just wants to do. And I don't think, if you ask either my parents or even my brother, I don't think anybody thought that this would turn into what I love doing and things that and a lot of time I spend on these. And, I'm sure I had friends that were probably even like, dude, you're not even making money on this and you're spending so much time. And yeah, but it's a hobby that I love. It's something that I love to do. And I always say that, if you're not loving what you do, then why are you doing it? And so, God has, blessed me with the joy of doing this, and that's what I want to keep doing. But anyways, that's besides the point. Back to family. So family has really been the center of my life. As part of my Bowden experience kind of brand is the idea of faith, family, fun. And there's a reason why, faith is number one, which I talked about last week. And, but family is really number two. And, family to me is everything. And I know everyone in this, that maybe listen to this or is even in this world is come from a different family circumstance. And, maybe my story doesn't relate to you, or maybe, there's different scenarios. And this is just my story. I wanted to share what I guess my family has really meant to me during this time. But I want to that's what I want to talk about at the beginning. But at the end of this episode, I really want to talk about just, a couple questions I've been getting, and valid questions. And so, I remember when I started doing radio at Cedarville, I remember my dad was just like, yeah, that's gonna be pretty good, that'll be good for you. And mom was the same way. And I don't think either of them probably thought that it was gonna last for 4 years that I ended up doing it. And maybe they did, and I just don't know. But I really love the support that they have given me. And it's not just in radio and video making and stuff like that. It's really been my whole life. My parents and my brother and my aunts and uncles, like, they've all been a part of my life, and they've all tried to, in some way or another, be a part of it, and to help mature me and to help me grow. And I'll always be eternally grateful. I always say, I have a earthly father, but my heavenly Father is bigger and better. As much as I love my dad and I love my parents, but I think we all sometimes wonder, why we're put into a certain circumstance. And for me, that's kind of true. I guess for me, like, I have older parents that my brother and I both came on a little later, so it was always different growing up. But the one thing I always tell people is, like, my mom and dad were the most supportive parents I could ever have. And And I always say that because, as you know from my Tuesday episode last week, I talked about how my grandfather was, when he passed away, it really was a tough situation, and it really put me into a place that I really don't want to go back to. But during that time, my mom, who is my grandpa's daughter, the oldest daughter, was so strong for us, was so strong for myself when I was going through a really tough time and didn't know how to deal with it, and encouraged me to find ways to deal with it and to talk to people. And same with my dad. My dad was, my grandpa Yoder was a big kind of influence of him and influence on him, and obviously being his father-in-law. And so during that time, and that's how this kind of connects, is like, I think that was, I always loved my family, and I always, respected them, and I always wanted to be there, but there was always a lot of arguing, I think, because of myself and being stubborn and being selfish. And I don't think it was until I think there was some turning points here and there at the end of high school, early into college, but when Grandpa passed away was when I really, I think, saw my family in a different light. I saw my family in this, like, I want to spend time with them. I want to be around them because, like, I don't know what the next day brings. And I tell people that the being with family is something that I think for every single person, even for my own father, it's different. I personally don't know what everyone that's listening has went through with their family. Maybe they're not as close with their family. Maybe they have a split household. Maybe they just have gone through some very troubling times, and I get that. And we all have different family scenarios, but if there's one thing I've learned, is that family is not just relational. Family is the body of Christ. And so I think that was another big, aspect, is like, my family, yes, was my immediate family, but my family was my church family and my Christian brothers and sisters at Cedarville. During these tough times, and during the tough time of my junior year especially, like, they all picked me up. And so family is something that is very important to me. And, my dream is to one day have children and to have that same family aspect, that same family idea that I grew up with, that family matters and you're here to love on them and you're here to help them grow and ultimately try to help them lead a life that is honoring to Christ. And I think I thank my mom and dad for that. I thank my mom and dad for raising me, and I wouldn't be here in Hungary if it wasn't for, my mom and dad, but even just my dad coming over here. I say that all the time. If my dad never came over to Hungary, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have met half the friends I've had over here. I wouldn't be serving with Word Life, most likely. I mean, it could have been, but most likely not. And, yeah. And so family is a big part of my life. It's a big part of who I am. And I think that's the most important part, is that, for me, family wasn't just, it's not just the immediate family. It's not blood family. Family to me is blood family plus the body of Christ, my brothers and sisters in Christ that have helped me through some very tough times. I remember when Grandpa passed away, that two of my really, really great friends that I hold dear, close and dear to my heart, two dudes that have been there through the good and the bad. They helped me through that time. They challenged me. They helped me look at life a little different, and I'm eternally grateful for them. And they truly are some of my best friends, and I consider them family. And because I think a lot of times when we think of family, we just think of blood. But I think when you think of family, you think of people that love you, people that care for you, and that goes beyond family. It goes to your friends, to your mentors, the people that have helped build you and grow you. And so that's been my family. And through my high school years obviously was rough patches for me, even middle school. I still wonder how my family dealt with me. But when I got to college, I think I slowly started understanding what family meant to me. But then um, when I went through tough times was when I really realized that family is so important, and family is um, some people that can be there for you. And so I really wanted to talk about that because I think it kind of leads into um, what I want to finish this episode with. But I guess another thing too is that um, I think many times, at least when I was growing up, I think I felt like nonchalant, if that makes sense, about my family. I kind of just went with life um, and kind of was like, oh, I have a good family, they care for me and stuff like that. And I didn't really understand what family meant, as like I just said earlier. And I sometimes get that. I always ask my question, like self, the question of, what if I would have like respected family earlier or wanted to be involved more? And I always wonder, like, would that have changed circumstances? Would I have been closer with my grandfather per se, or would I have been closer with my family? Because I remember as a kid, my mom would always say, like my mom and dad, but especially my mom, she would always say, you need to go over and see your grandma and grandpa. And I never understood that. She would always say that. And then one day, I think it was like when I was 15, 14, she was like, hey, you need to go spend time with them. You never know when the last day is. And at that time, obviously my grandpa was still living. He'd be living for another 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. So like and I didn't know it was only going to be 6 years. I just like, oh, he'll be there. Like, I'll be fine. Because I took it for granted. I took family for granted. And if there's anything that this being here in Hungary on my own, away from family, it's um, I'm glad I don't take family for granted anymore. As many of you know, I haven't really. I mean, I lived at Cedarville. I lived the past summer kind of on my own, but I had roommates. But I lived on my own. But I was still close to home. This is really the first time that I've been far enough away from home that I can't just go home and see. I journal, and I think I'm on like day almost 50 now, and I was thinking about, like, that's the longest I've ever seen without seeing my family in person. Um, and um, that's just something I think that is interesting for myself, is that when I started, like, that's a big regret I have, and I hate to have regrets, but that's one big thing, is like wishing I would have been there for my grandpa more. When he passed away, I remember I still do that. I try to go to see my grandma quite a bit. Um, I wish I could see my dad's side more, but they live a little farther away. But I think it helped me understand that family is not just something that is just going to be there forever. Obviously, you're going to have your family forever, but you don't know when the last day is you'll see someone, or this person you love, the person you look up to. And it helped me realize things. And it's kind of interesting how God does that. God uses situations to teach you things, to help you see things in a different picture, different light. And so I kind of want to switch gears and not really switch gears, but kind of take a pivot per se. Take a pivot to talk about what I guess, a question that I get asked quite a bit, and honestly, it's hit me more the last couple of days. Is I get the question all the time: do you miss your family? Do you miss being at home? And I think I avoid the question more than anything. I think because I'm a missionary, and I shouldn't. I think I just was selfish, and as a missionary, I was like, I shouldn't miss my family. But the more I sat down and thought about it, and the more time I walked around and thought about it, I realized that I do miss my family. I miss them very, very much. And whenever I hear, like, my brother's doing something, he's got a podcast now. If you want to go listen to it, it's, I believe, In the Zone, I think. I can't remember. I will link it, though, because I'm a supportive brother, even though I can't remember the name of the show. I think that's what the name is. Anyways, when I hear that kind of stuff, or I hear like what's going on with my grandma and my cousins, and it's hard. It's especially during this time, this coronavirus time. That's one thing that I really struggle with is just being away from family and being able just to maybe be hunkered down together and to be able to be there for each other and to challenge each other and to just have fun. And I miss that. I do. And I miss just having the fun conversations. I was thinking about this the other day. My dad and I remember, I just love our fun we have. Like, and the interesting part about my dad and I is I think we always used to butt heads. I mean, we still butt heads, but we used to butt heads in a wrong way. And I think we still do occasionally, but I think as I've grown up, as I've matured, it's been really cool to have conversations with my dad. And I miss those conversations. I miss those sport conversations. I mean, yeah, I can call him when I get the chance, but he works during the day, so it's kind of hard for me. But it's not the same. It's not the same sitting down in the chair watching a ball game and debating over things that probably shouldn't be debated over. But I miss those conversations. I miss him sharing about what he sees in politics or what he sees in the church and what the church is going on. Like I miss those, and it's not easy being away from that. I miss my brother because I feel like we weren't always close growing up, and that's on me. Like I take full responsibility for that, and not being close with him, I didn't realize how hard it was, and it wasn't until really I got to college, and when everything with my grandpa started happening, when he started getting ill, was when I really took the chance to want to get closer with him, my brother. I love Jared to death, and I wish I could have said that more when I was younger. I wish I could have been there more as a brother for him, and so it's been hard because in the last 6-7 months we've gotten real close. We started a podcast together. We've joked around. He's been in some of my videos together. He's really matured as a man, and to not be there to see that and to feel like I've wasted some years, it's been hard. It's been hard to do that, but like I know he's trucking along and he's doing some amazing things, and he's going to be, he always says he wants to be on Broadway, and I believe he can. I believe that he could make that difference, be that that Christian guy that's on Broadway and make a difference. And so, if that's still his dream, go get it, bud. And then, my mom, I always tell people I love my mom to death. I guess I look like my mom. Is what everyone tells me. It's the Yoder nose, I guess. No, but, I love my mom. I love, I no offense, Dad, but Mom's always the one I go to for, I think, some advice or when I just want to share my heart. Sorry, Dad, we're too much alike. Yeah, Dad, you know what I'm trying to say. Mom's just she listens, she's loving, and so are you, Dad. Don't take offense to that. Man, I'm digging myself a hole. But no, I love you both, but my mom has always been that one to encourage me and to get me through the tough times. I remember when I was getting bullied, I would tell her a little bit, and I probably should have told her more. I mean, I think more that I've done this podcast, more has come out and she's talked with me and realized things, but she's always been there, and I miss those conversations. I miss her driving me to my licensure exams, and yes, Mom, when we had the van die on us after one of my licensure exams, which turned out to be the licensure exam I passed. So maybe we need to get stuck more when I'm taking tests. I don't know. But no, I love you. I appreciate all you've done for Jared and I, and the amount of road trips you've had to make and all that. And I love you guys. And so, I say all that and I want to be, open with anybody that maybe is away from their family and maybe is far away from their family or stuck somewhere else. And I just wanted to give some advice on what I've learned and things that I've been able to do to kind of work through and kind of hopefully get better at. And so one of the big things for me is technology. I mean, we're in this technology age, and it's so great. I know I was thinking about that the other day. If I would have had to write letters, I would see them 2 weeks later. Um, but having technology and talking to mom and dad and grandma and my brother and being able to talk with them and have conversations, it's great. It's a great way to catch up. It is really cool. And I love talking to my grandma, and I can't leave my grandma out. Grandma has been um, one of the rocks of this family, of my mom's side of the family, and um, I love her to death, and um, you've always been there for us. You've always supported us, and I love you. I miss you. Miss being able to go see Tater, your dog, and you, and same with all my family. I could go on, and I don't mean to leave anybody out. I could go on and on and on because that's how much my family means to me. But going back to the point of what, going back to the point of really of how I've kind of dealt with it. One, I said technology, but two, I said this. I said I had to be reminding myself that this is a time of change. For me, it might be a little different. Maybe you've been away from your family for a little longer, but for me, being not too long, a couple months, I've said that, God, I wanted this. I prayed about it. God sent me here. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Even though it's hard to be away from family now, it's, I guess, easier in the sense that I know that this is what God wanted, and I'm here serving, and I know my family supports me, and I know that my family understands, and they want the best for me. And so I think in that sense, it's helped not worry as much. But then I guess the third kind of thing that I wanted to share is just trying to stay in tune with God's word, and trying to work on that, and then also encouraging my family. I know I need to do better at that. I know I need to reach out to more of my family and to more of my friends. Because like I said, friends are also part of my family. And I think for all of us, I think we have friends that we consider family. And I think we all need to do, checking up on them too. And so I think those little encouragements, or just, giving a phone call or sending a text or a message, like that, I think goes a long way. And it kind of helped me understand and helped me kind of get through those weird spots. I know, like, specifically one day this past week, it was really hard for me. I don't know why I was missing my family so much. And I really just remember I went through my photos, and I was just looking at pictures of my family, and was reminded how blessed I am, and how much God really loves me, and how much my family loves me. And so I think that's a big thing. And if anything, I think we can have comfort in the fact that, God's in control. And, like I said at the beginning of the episode, wherever you are, like whatever you are with your family, how close you are, how not close you are, or the dynamic of it, um, I know it can be hard in whatever circumstance. And I'm not here to try to make it seem like, you know, that I know everything, or I seem to know everything. I don't. I'm just sharing from my heart. I'm sharing what I've experienced, and hopefully maybe that will help you. Maybe understand myself, or understand maybe someone else near my situation, or close to what I'm going through. But I guess the last thing that I want to encourage everyone, no matter what, what you're going through, is that we are a part of a bigger family. We are a part of God's family, and so how can we help those who are in God's family? It's sending those encouraging letters for the elderly. Maybe no, we have to have social distancing, but maybe go over and rake their leaves, and just make a pile. Or maybe it's gardening for them, or maybe it's for a family in your church, at the church that has younger kids, going and getting groceries for them, and dropping them off, or um, you know doing all you can in this time where it's social distancing, but still trying to encourage, or, making a group video chat of, some of your close friends at church, or some of your close friends from college, or some of your close friends from high school, or wherever you're at. But I think it's taking the opportunities to encourage our family. You're in my family, and God has given us this opportunity to take a step back and to reevaluate, I think, our walk. I've said that before. I think he's truly he's allowing us to have this time, and I think we're foolish if we don't use it, and we're foolish if we don't look at it as a blessing. I think we're foolish if we look at it as, well, this sucks. You know what? Maybe it sucks for the world. But what I do know is that I've been able to understand God a lot clearer, and I've been able to read more and to understand more. And I've seen those little blessings. I think sometimes we look at the negative instead of looking at the blessings that are between the fabric, and we see that blessing, and we're like, oh, this makes sense. And so, I hope that this episode, encourages you to reach out to maybe some of your family that you haven't reached out to, or call some of your family members, write a letter, do something for another family member, whether that's your immediate family, whether that's your distant family, whether that's your, church family, or your friends. And I hope it just brought you some encouragement. Hopefully explained a little bit what I'm going through, and how I've experienced things and what's been going through my mind. And so, once again, give your family a hug tonight, give your siblings a hug, give your friends a hug. If you can't physically, then, socially give them a hug, I guess. I don't know. But remember that God has our days. He knows when will be our last. And so I'm excited to keep living this life until God calls me home. And so I encourage you to also evaluate your life as well. So once again, I thank you so much for tuning in. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and star it up, light those stars up. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button, which will keep you in tune with all my videos that come out, ministry videos and just fun videos as well. And once again, God is faithful, and you can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.